Welcome to This Explainer. When we think of poverty, it's just incredibly easy to picture a simple lack of money, right? An empty bank account, a temporary shortfall. But what if that's entirely the wrong way to look at it? What if, especially for underdeveloped nations, poverty isn't just a state of being, but an inescapable, self-reinforcing mechanical trap? Today, we're going to look at a brilliant economic framework that basically treats poverty like a broken machine, where every single moving part is perfectly designed to keep the system exactly where it is, stuck. To truly understand this, we've got to turn to the foundational work of economist Nurksey. He noted that a vicious circle of poverty implies a circular constellation of forces tending to act and react upon one another in such a way as to keep a poor country in a state of poverty. I absolutely love that phrasing, a circular constellation of forces. It establishes right away that we aren't just dealing with one single isolated problem here. We're dealing with a dynamic, interconnected system where every cause is also a symptom, just acting and reacting upon one another relentlessly. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the anatomy of poverty, then explore Loop 1, the supply trap, Loop 2, the demand trap, and Loop 3, the resource trap. Finally, we'll ask the big question. Is this an unbreakable circle? Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the anatomy of poverty, understanding the systemic trap. To frame our analysis, we really need to understand exactly what a vicious circle actually means in an economic context. It refers to a situation of self-reinforcing forces that are related in a circular way, which ultimately results in the continuation of poverty and underdevelopment. Think of it kind of like a giant whirlpool. It's not just a stagnant pond. It's a body of water where the currents are actively working together to pull everything down to the center. To understand how an entire nation gets trapped in this whirlpool, we have to look at the three specific currents, or loops, that Nurksey identified. Let's move on to Section 2, Loop 1, the supply trap, how capital formation stalls on the supply side. Now, I want you to imagine the economy right now, from the perspective of an average worker who's just trying to save a little bit of money for the future. What's really fascinating here is how the economic forces form a complete closed circuit. It starts with underdevelopment at the very top, flows through a series of harsh economic realities, and loops right back around to underdevelopment. There is literally no off-ramp here. It is a completely sealed system of economic stagnation. Let's systematically walk through the exact mechanics of this supply side. Step 1. Because the country is underdeveloped, the total output is low. Workers just have low productivity. Step 2. Because you aren't producing much, your paycheck is small. You have low real income. Step 3. Because your income is barely enough to survive on, you are completely unable to save any money. So you have low savings. Step 4. Well, because the population has no savings in the bank, banks have absolutely no money to lend out to businesses, meaning there's low investment. And finally, Step 5. This lack of investment leads to a severe capital deficiency. Without capital, you can't buy better tools or machinery, which leads us right back to Step 1, low productivity. The worker is completely stuck. And this brings us to the core paradox of the supply loop. Capital deficiency acts as both a cause and a consequence of a low level of income. The lack of capital is what actually causes the workers' low income in the first place, but that very low income is exactly what prevents the creation of new capital. The machine is essentially eating its own tail. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Loop 2, the demand trap, why businesses lack the incentive to invest. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if an ambitious entrepreneur just decides to take a risk and start a business anyway? Unfortunately, the trap exists on the demand side too. It's amazing how heavily this demand loop mirrors the supply loop we just looked at. It starts with underdevelopment, low productivity, and low real income, but it hinges on entirely different market forces at the other end of the cycle. Instead of low savings, we're looking at low demand. Let's break this down from the perspective of our hypothetical entrepreneur. Step 1. The population has low real income. Step 2. This means the people in your town have small buying power. They can only afford the bare necessities. Step 3. Because nobody has any extra cash, your potential customer base is tiny. You have a limited market size. Step 4. So if you want to build a massive shoe factory, but you know for a fact nobody in your country can afford to buy the shoes, you experience a complete lack of investment incentive. I mean, why build the factory at all? Step 5. Because you don't build the factory, the country experiences capital deficiency, which leads straight back to low productivity and underdevelopment. The entrepreneurial spirit is completely crushed by the reality of the market. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer weight of the vicious circle when you put the two halves together. On the supply side, capital deficiency is caused because the population is simply too poor to save. But on the demand side, capital deficiency is caused because the population is too poor to buy. These forces are working together to completely strangle capital formation. The money can't be saved to build the factories, and even if it could, there's absolutely no market demand to justify building them in the first place. Moving on to Section 4, Loop 3, the resource trap, the human element of underdevelopment. For this final loop, we're shifting our focus away from money and markets, and we're looking directly at the human and natural resources of a country. We are dealing with a tighter circle here, bouncing between underdevelopment, underdeveloped resources, and economically backward people. The fundamental premise here is that a country might be sitting on a gold mine, literally mountains of valuable natural resources, but the development of those natural resources depends entirely on the productive capacity of the country's human resources. So, why does the human element remain held back? Well, the people in this trapped economy are often economically backward for very specific systemic reasons. They face illiteracy, they lack modern technical skills, they lack the necessary knowledge and training to harness the natural wealth around them. You simply cannot build a modern mining operation or an advanced agricultural export business without a highly trained, educated workforce. So, the crucial point is this. Underdeveloped natural resources are both a consequence and a cause of backward people. The people are trapped in economic backwardness because the nation's resources aren't developed enough to fund schools, infrastructure, and training. And on the flip side, the resources just sit undeveloped in the ground precisely because the people lack the education and skills to extract and utilize them. It is relentless circularity. Section 5, the unbreakable circle. Finding the breaking point? We have just examined 3 separate, incredibly powerful economic traps. But here's the truly terrifying part of economist Nurks's theory. These loops do not happen one at a time. They are happening simultaneously. This is the triple threat of underdevelopment acting on a country all at once. You have the supply loop, choking off savings from the bottom up. You have the demand loop, destroying investment incentives from the top down. And you have the resource loop, trapping raw human potential in a state of uneducated backwardness. Nurks didn't just map out a theory here. He mapped out a deeply entrenched mechanical system of poverty where every single gear turns the others to keep the country exactly where it is. Which leaves us with the ultimate puzzle for developing economies. We've seen how perfectly this broken machine runs. So I leave you with this question to think about. With supply, demand, and human resources all locked in these self-reinforcing loops, where and how must a country inject capital to finally shatter this ironclad cycle? Does it start with education? Does it start with foreign investment? Or does the entire machine need to be broken all at once? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and I'll leave you to ponder that vital question.